Here's a quick little look at the excavation equipment, or Exeq 15 kVA single phase generator. I got this thing because the one that I had before, a really common Hyundai generator, had the flywheel fall off it. That's a single piston unit, and it vibrates and it chatters and it jumps up and down as it starts and stops, and I think the crankshaft didn't like that and the flywheel fell off. So we looked for a replacement, and these guys stood out as an interesting one because a lot of the generators of this size were sort of $18,000, and this was about $6,000. So you think, geez, you're paying a third of the price, you're getting a third of the gear. But I think we may have hit a winner here because it actually looks pretty damn good. So I've run it for probably 10 hours so far, and there's not a single drop of oil coming out of anything, which is, I have had different Chinese made engines where it's leaking oil straight away, but so far looking pretty good. The layout is really nice to work on. They've done a good job. Everything's easy to access. You get your battery and your battery isolator there. Alternator's easy to get to if you go to work on that. All your cables are in conduits, looking nice and tidy. You got some holes in the top here for your oil fill. When you get down the top there. Same for your radiator. Got a mother-in-law keeping the water out the exhaust pipe. I would like to put an enclosure over this, but it's only just been put here. On this side, you have an energized to stop little actuator, easy access to your fuel and oil filters. And a nice little feature, because you can tell these guys that have had this assembled have thought about usability. They've got a tap down here for your oil drain, and it comes out one of these little holes here. So they've actually done a pretty good job in actually plumbing this in a way that makes it easy to work on. From the back of your alternator, you've got your feed coming straight out and into this box at the front. It goes through this 63 amp breaker, back down now into the back of this box here, where we have some terminals exposed that I've gone and wired my house feed into as a backup generator. And then we have it go back up into these, one of the feeds you can see coming back up, goes into all this array of plugs that you can use. So nice little setup. In behind the panel here, we have easy access for terminals. They've given you spares for your battery positive and negatives for hooking things into. I've got a relay there to pull in and ground a remote start function for this controller. This controller calls itself a M-Aqua, and I couldn't find anything about them online, but I have used the, what do they call themselves, Smart Gen controllers. This is exactly the same as a Smart Gen. There's a Smart Gen 6120, and this calls itself an RF6120. Look at the Smart Gen and you'll find all the information on it. That's the wiring at the back, but very, very easy to use. You can go through the menus here to get access to all the settings when you've got it turned on. It's 0318, I believe, is the code to change everything. Got your diesel filling here. It's going to be quite easy to get this diesel tank plumbed up to it because we've got our send and return or whatever sitting right there. It does have a diesel level gauge as well, so it can whinge at you about that if you need to, but it won't need to do much for me because I'm just going to drill some holes in here and plumb with a hydraulic hose a fuel line into there. But otherwise, it's a very, very tidy unit. Sounds really, really good. May even just start it up for good measure because you can hear it, because it was a very, very nice sounding engine. So we'll crank this guy. Especially considering what the Hyundai one sounded like. That thing was horrible. It lasted 2 years before it snapped, so this thing here should be a lot better. So we go in here, that's our little screen here. Fingers out. So let's go manual. Tell it to start. And you can see this is my voice next to it. You can have a conversation with someone next to it. It's not that loud. You are talking a bit louder, but very, very smooth sounding engine. So overall, really, really happy with it. If you're in the same boat looking for something for your house as a backup and you got the space for it, do yourself a favor and get one of these things. They've done a brilliant job with it. and I can't see myself having very many issues with it. Just very clever layout. Yeah, overall very happy. I also think the whole body of it may be galvanized and painted, because around here, I'll stop this now. Does a little cool down thing, cooling time. So I was saying, I think the body might be galvanized because I did scratch some paint off there. And you can see we are looking nice and shiny. So that's the other bonus as well. Like, you don't see that very often, that you get a fully painted body on galvanized steel. That thing certainly wasn't. So yeah, overall, I think you found a winner. Do yourself a favor and pick one of these up. Check them out. The last piece of the puzzle for this generator and getting it to start remotely is you need to change a setting to tell it to ignore the mains power. So this thing can monitor mains power, and if it sees the mains power drop below a certain voltage, then it will start the generator, which is not good when you want to remotely start it with a 2-wire configuration and it's not connected to mains power, because it's going to think it needs to start all the time. That was the problem I was having. I'd press auto, it would start running, and I was thinking, what's going on? And so the way to fix it, you go into the menu here, and I say, hey, what's your code? And you go into parameters. It is 0318. You get in there, and there's the third parameter here is mains under voltage. I think it's default 184 volts. Set it to 30, and it gets ignored then. So use the arrows to go down, set it to 30, and you're done. And then these little red lights light up, and it says, oh, we're not going to be bothering with that anymore. And now I can set it back to auto, and it doesn't automatically crank for me. So handy little feature.